The bedroom door was already open when Naomi came home early from her mother's house. She heard it before she saw it. The sounds, the laughter. Her husband's voice saying things he never said to her anymore. Her hand trembled on the doorframe as she pushed the door wider, and there they were. Brandon and Amber, his 24-year-old assistant, tangled in the sheets of the bed Naomi had picked out for their 5th anniversary. Time stopped. Her grocery bags hit the floor. The wine bottle shattered. That's when they finally noticed her. Brandon didn't even look sorry. He just pulled the sheet up and stared at her with cold eyes. Amber had the nerve to smirk. Actually smirk. "Naomi," Brandon said, his voice flat. "We need to talk." She couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of cooking his favorite meals, supporting his career, being the perfect wife. And this was how it ended. "Get out," she whispered. "This is my house," Brandon said, climbing out of bed and pulling on his pants. "Actually, you need to get out. Amber, give me those papers." Amber reached for the nightstand. Naomi watched in horror as the woman handed Brandon a manila envelope. He walked over and shoved it into Naomi's hands. "Divorce papers. Already signed on my end. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow." He crossed his arms. "Let's be honest, Naomi. You were never enough for me. You're boring. Plain. I need someone with fire, someone who actually excites me." Naomi looked down at the papers, her vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall. Not in front of them. "I did everything for you," she said quietly. "Everything?" Brandon laughed. "You did the bare minimum. You worked at that boring bookstore, made teachers' salary money, and expected me to be happy with that?" Amber here, she understands ambition. Her father owns 3 hotels. She's going places. Naomi felt something break inside her. Not her heart. Something deeper. Her sense of self, maybe. Her belief that being good and kind and loyal mattered. "Sign the papers," Brandon continued. "I'm not giving you much. You didn't contribute financially to this marriage anyway. You'll get enough to get an apartment somewhere." "And Naomi?" He stepped closer, his breath hot on her face. "Don't think you're going to find someone else. What man wants a 30-year-old divorced woman with nothing to offer? You should be grateful I even married you in the first place." Behind him, Amber giggled. Actually giggled. Naomi picked up her grocery bags, left the broken wine on the floor and walked out. She didn't say another word. What was there to say? The man she loved, the man she built her life around, thought she was worthless. And maybe she had been. Maybe she had lost herself so completely in being his wife that there was nothing left of Naomi anymore. She drove to her best friend's house, but when she got there, her friend Tasha wouldn't answer the door. Through the window, Naomi could see her peeking through the curtains. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tasha. "Brandon told me what you did. I can't believe you tried to trap him like that. Don't contact me again." What she did. Naomi stood on that porch, shaking, and realized Brandon was already spinning the story. Already making her the villain. She got back in her car and drove to her mother's, but her mother had left town that morning for a cruise. She had nowhere to go. That night, Naomi slept in her car in a grocery store parking lot. She cried until there were no tears left. Then she stared at the ceiling of her old Honda and made a decision. She wasn't going to die from this. She wasn't going to let Brandon win. She had no idea how she was going to survive, but she would. She had to. The next morning, she went to a motel and paid for a week. She called her boss at the bookstore and explained she needed time off. Then she sat on that scratchy motel bed and read through the divorce papers. Brandon was giving her almost nothing. $10,000 in her car. That was it. 5 years of marriage and she got $10,000. She signed the papers. Not because she wanted to, but because fighting would cost money she didn't have. Brandon had already talked to all their friends. Already poisoned everyone against her. She had no one. But she had herself. And maybe that would have to be enough. 2 weeks later, the divorce was final. Brandon married Amber a month after that. Naomi saw the photos on social media. The big white dress. The expensive venue. The smiling faces of all the people who used to be her friends. She closed the app and got back to work. She had found a small apartment, barely more than a room with a bathroom, but it was hers. She picked up extra shifts at the bookstore. She ate cheap meals and stopped buying anything that wasn't necessary. And slowly, day by day, she started to feel like a person again. Not Brandon's wife. Not someone's ex. Just Naomi. And she started to remember who Naomi was before she ever met him. Someone who loved books. Someone who wanted to write. Someone who had dreams before she made his dreams her own. 3 months after the divorce, Naomi's life had become small but steady. She worked 6 days a week at the bookstore, came home to her tiny apartment, and spent her evenings reading. She had learned to enjoy silence. In her marriage, silence had always felt dangerous, like Brandon's anger was just waiting behind it. Now silence felt peaceful. But Brandon wasn't done with her yet. She found out through a former coworker that Brandon had been telling people she had cheated on him. That she had been the one with an affair and he had caught her. That's why Tasha had turned on her. That's why their whole friend group had vanished overnight. Naomi wanted to fight back, to tell the truth, but who would believe her? Brandon was charismatic and successful. She was just the quiet ex-wife working at a bookstore. So she said nothing. She let the lies spread. What did it matter? Those people had chosen to believe him without even asking her side. They weren't real friends anyway. The hardest part was running into them. One Saturday she saw Brandon and Amber at the grocery store. Amber was hanging on his arm, showing off a huge diamond bracelet. Brandon saw Naomi and actually smiled. Not a kind smile. A winner's smile. Naomi looked away and kept shopping. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. But that night, alone in her apartment, she let herself cry. Not for Brandon. She was surprised to realize she didn't miss him at all. She cried for the version of herself who had believed love was supposed to hurt. Who had thought being small would make someone love her more. The next morning she woke up angry. Really angry. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, determined kind. Brandon thought she was nothing? He thought no one would want her? Fine. She would prove him wrong. Not for him. For herself. She went to the community college and looked at their course catalog. Business management. Creative writing. Marketing. She had always wanted to go back to school, but Brandon had said it was a waste of money. Now nobody could tell her what to do with her money or her time. She signed up for 2 evening classes. It would be hard with her work schedule, but she didn't care. She needed to do something for herself. Something that was just hers. At the bookstore, she started paying more attention to what customers wanted. She made suggestions to her boss about rearranging displays and hosting author events. Her boss, an older woman named Patricia, noticed. "You've got a good eye for this," Patricia said one afternoon. "You ever think about management?" Naomi had never thought about anything beyond surviving the next day. "I don't know if I'm qualified." "Qualified?" Patricia laughed. "Honey, half of success is just showing up and caring. You do both. I'm getting ready to retire in a year or 2. I've been thinking about who could take over. If you're interested, I'll start training you." For the first time in months, Naomi felt something like hope. "I'm interested." That evening, she walked home with her head up instead of staring at the ground. She passed a gym and stopped. She had always wanted to try yoga, but Brandon had made fun of it. She walked in and signed up for a beginner class. Small steps. That's what she told herself. Small steps forward were still forward. Her college classes started the next week. She was nervous walking into that first classroom. Everyone looked so young. But the professor smiled at her and several other students her age were there too. She wasn't alone. In her creative writing class, the professor asked them to write about a turning point in their lives. Naomi wrote about the day she signed her divorce papers. She didn't name Brandon. She just wrote about how it felt to close a door on one life and step into the unknown. The professor read it out loud to the class. "This is powerful," she said. "This is honest writing. This is what I want from all of you." Naomi felt her cheeks get hot, but it was a good feeling. Someone saw her. Really saw her. Not as Brandon's wife or his victim. Just as herself. After class, another student came up to her. "That was beautiful. You're a really good writer." "Thank you," Naomi said and meant it. She started making friends in her classes. Nothing deep, just friendly conversations before and after. But it was more than she'd had in months. These people didn't know about her divorce. They just knew her as Naomi, the woman who asked smart questions and always did the reading. One night, walking home from the gym, she passed a mirror in a storefront window. She stopped and really looked at herself. She had lost weight from stress, but she looked stronger somehow. Her eyes looked different. Clear. She stood up straighter now. Brandon had told her no one would want her. But standing there looking at her reflection, Naomi realized she didn't need anyone to want her. She wanted herself. And that was enough. 6 months after the divorce, spring arrived and brought changes with it. Naomi had settled into her new life. She worked at the bookstore during the day, took classes 3 evenings a week, and spent her weekends studying and going to yoga. It wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful. She had stopped checking social media, stopped wondering what Brandon was doing. She had even stopped flinching when she thought about him. One Tuesday morning, A man walked into the bookstore just as Naomi was setting up a new display. She was balancing on a stepladder, reaching for a high shelf, when she heard the bell over the door. She turned to call out a greeting and her elbow knocked into her coffee cup. It flew off the shelf and headed straight for the customer. Oh no! She scrambled down the ladder, but it was too late. Coffee splashed all over his white shirt and expensive-looking suit jacket. I am so sorry. Naomi grabbed napkins from behind the counter and rushed over. I'm so clumsy, I'll pay for the cleaning, I'm so sorry. The man looked down at his ruined shirt and then up at her. He had dark brown eyes and a short beard. He was maybe 40 with gray at his temples. And he was smiling. It's fine, he said. Really? I've had worse Tuesdays. But your suit, it looks expensive, I ruined it. Naomi kept apologizing, her face burning with embarrassment. I promise you it's just a shirt. He took the napkins and dabbed at the stain half-heartedly. I'm more worried about you. You looked like you almost fell off that ladder. I'm fine. I'm just horrified. This is not how we usually greet customers. She wanted to disappear into the floor. What, you don't throw coffee on everyone who walks in? His smile widened. I feel special. Despite her embarrassment, Naomi laughed. Only the ones who look like they need more coffee. Fair point. I did just come from a very long meeting. He looked around the store. I was hoping to find something to help me forget about business for a while. Any suggestions? Naomi forgot about the coffee stain. Books, she could talk about books. What do you usually like to read? Honestly, I haven't read for fun in years. I read reports and contracts and emails. But I used to love novels. Something with a good story. Naomi thought for a moment, then walked to the fiction section. She pulled out 3 books. These are all different, but they're all good stories. Real page-turners. This one's a thriller, this one's historical fiction, and this one's about a man who starts over after losing everything. The man took the 3rd book and read the back cover. Starting over after losing everything. That sounds relatable. It's one of my favorites, Naomi said. The main character has to figure out who he is without all the things he thought defined him. I'll take it. He held out his hand. I'm Harrison, by the way. Naomi. She shook his hand. His grip was firm but not aggressive. And again, I'm really sorry about your shirt. Stop apologizing. It's just coffee. He followed her to the register. Do you work here every day? Most days, yes. Why? I might need more book recommendations once I finish this one. He paid for the book and picked up his coffee-stained jacket. Have a good day, Naomi. She watched him leave, feeling strangely lighter. He had been so kind about the coffee. And he had actually listened to her talk about books, not just nodded politely like most customers did. Harrison came back 3 days later. He had finished the book. That was excellent, he said, setting it on the counter. You were right about the story. I stayed up late reading it. I'm glad you liked it. Naomi smiled. Looking for another one? Definitely. What else do you recommend? This became a pattern. Harrison came in every few days, always asking for Naomi's suggestions. They started talking about more than just books. He asked her about her classes. She asked him about his work, though he was vague about it, just saying he worked in business. He never mentioned a wife or girlfriend. She never mentioned her divorce. After a month of these visits, Patricia pulled Naomi aside. That man is interested in you. What? No. He just likes books. Naomi felt her face get hot. Honey, he comes in 3 times a week and only talks to you. He's not here for the books. Patricia smiled. And you light up when he walks in. I'm just saying. Naomi wanted to deny it, but Patricia wasn't wrong. She did look forward to Harrison's visits. He was easy to talk to. He asked real questions and actually listened to her answers. But she wasn't ready for anything romantic. She was still healing. The next time Harrison came in, he asked her something different. I know this is forward, but would you like to get coffee sometime? Somewhere where you're not throwing it on me? Naomi's first instinct was to say no. But then she looked at him, really looked at him. He seemed nervous. This confident man in his expensive suits was nervous asking her for coffee. Just coffee? She asked. Just coffee. As friends. I enjoy talking to you and I'd like to continue the conversation somewhere that's not your workplace. Friends? She could do friends. Okay. When? They met that Saturday at a small coffee shop. Naomi got there first and almost left twice before Harrison arrived. But when he walked in and smiled at her, she relaxed. They talked for 3 hours. About everything. Books, movies, life. Harrison told her he worked too much and had forgotten how to just enjoy things. Naomi told him she was rebuilding her life after a difficult divorce. She didn't give details and he didn't push. "Can I be honest?" Harrison said as they walked out. "This is the best conversation I've had in years." "Me too," Naomi admitted. "Can we do it again?" She surprised herself by saying yes. Over the next 2 months, Naomi and Harrison fell into an easy friendship. They met for coffee every Saturday morning. Sometimes they went to art museums or took walks in the park. Harrison never pushed for more than friendship, and Naomi appreciated that. She was still learning to trust again. But slowly she started noticing small things. The way Harrison remembered everything she said. How he brought her favorite tea without asking. The way he looked at her when she talked about her writing class. One Saturday they were sitting on a park bench when Harrison said, "I need to tell you something." Naomi's stomach dropped. Here it comes, she thought. He has a girlfriend. He's moving away. Something. "I haven't been completely honest with you about my work," Harrison said. He pulled out his phone and showed her a news article. The headline read, "Harrison Cole, CEO of Cole Industries, announces new technology initiative." Naomi stared at the phone, then at him. "You're Harrison Cole? The billionaire Harrison Cole?" "I hate that word. Billionaire. It makes me sound like a villain in a movie." He looked nervous. "I didn't tell you at first because I liked that you treated me like a normal person. You didn't know who I was and you still talk to me about books and life. Do you know how rare that is?" Naomi sat back against the bench. Harrison Cole. She had heard of him. Everyone had. He owned one of the biggest technology companies in the world. "Why are you telling me now?" she asked. "Because I like you. As more than a friend. And I don't want there to be lies between us, even lies by omission." He turned to face her. "I know you're still healing from your divorce. I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I just needed you to know the truth about who I am." Naomi looked at him. Really looked at him. Harrison Cole, billionaire CEO, was sitting on a park bench telling her he liked her. It felt impossible. "I need time to think about this," she said finally. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." He smiled. "Well, I have a business trip next week, but metaphorically, I'm not going anywhere." That week, while Harrison was away, Naomi did research. She read articles about him. Watched interviews. He was known for being fair but tough in business. He had built his company from almost nothing. He donated millions to schools and hospitals but never made a big show of it. And he had never been married, though he had dated a few women over the years. Nothing serious, according to the articles. She thought about Brandon. How he had made her feel small. How he had controlled everything about her life. Harrison was nothing like that. He listened to her. He respected her opinions. He never tried to change her or tell her what to do. But was she ready? Did she even want to risk her heart again? Patricia noticed Naomi's distraction at work. "What's going on with you?" Naomi told her about Harrison. About who he really was. Patricia laughed. "And you're worried about what, exactly? That he's too successful? Too rich? Too nice?" "I'm worried I'm not ready. What if I'm just looking for someone to save me?" "Honey, you've been saving yourself just fine for the past 8 months. This man isn't saving you. He's just asking to be part of your life." Patricia squeezed her hand. "You deserve good things. Stop punishing yourself for Brandon's mistakes." When Harrison came back from his trip, Naomi asked him to meet her at the bookstore after closing. She had made her decision. "I like you too," she told him as they stood in the quiet store. "But I need you to understand something. I'm still figuring out who I am. I'm not looking for someone to take care of me or fix me. I'm fixing myself." "I know," Harrison said. "That's one of the things I admire about you. You're strong. You don't need me. But maybe you could want me? Eventually?" Naomi smiled. "I think I already do. Want you, I mean. But we go slow. Really slow. As slow as you need." He reached for her hand. "I'm a patient man." They started dating, though it looked a lot like their friendship at first. Coffee dates, walks, long conversations. Harrison never pressured her for anything physical. He seemed content just being with her. After a month, he kissed her goodnight for the first time. It was gentle and sweet and nothing like kissing Brandon had been. When he pulled back, Naomi was smiling. "Okay?" he asked. "More than okay." Harrison started inviting her to dinners and events. Nothing too fancy at first, just nice restaurants and small gatherings. Naomi was nervous about meeting his friends, but they were kind to her. They treated her like a person, not like Harrison's girlfriend who needed to be impressive. She met his parents after 3 months. They lived in a beautiful house outside the city. Naomi had been terrified, but Harrison's mother hugged her immediately. "He talks about you constantly," she said. "I'm so happy to finally meet you." At dinner, Harrison's father asked her about her writing. He didn't ask about her job or her family or her past. Just her writing. Like it mattered. "I think you raised a good man," Naomi told Harrison on the drive home. "They liked you. My mother texted me already to say she approves." He laughed. "Not that I needed approval, but it's nice. I like them too." Naomi looked out the window at the passing lights. "Harrison, can I ask you something? What do you see in me? I'm not being insecure, I'm genuinely curious. You could date anyone. Models, actresses, other CEOs. Why me?" Harrison was quiet for a moment. "You know that first day you spilled coffee on me? You were so genuinely sorry. You offered to pay for the cleaning even though I could see you probably couldn't afford it. That kindness, that honesty, it's rare in my world. And then every time we talked, you surprised me. You're smart and funny and you don't care about my money. You care about books and stories and ideas. You make me want to be a better person." He glanced at her. "Plus, you're beautiful, but you don't seem to know it, which makes you even more attractive." Naomi felt tears in her eyes. "Brandon told me I was plain. Boring. That no one would want me. Brandon was an idiot." Harrison reached for her hand. "And I'm grateful he was, because otherwise you'd still be with him." 8 months into their relationship, Harrison took Naomi to a small cabin by a lake. It was early fall and the leaves were just starting to change colors. They spent the weekend hiking, reading by the fireplace and talking about everything and nothing. On Sunday morning, they were sitting on the dock watching the sunrise when Harrison said, "I love you." It was the first time either of them had said it. Naomi looked at him and realized she had been waiting to hear those words from someone who actually meant them. "I love you too," she said. Harrison kissed her, then pulled back with a serious expression. "I want to ask you something. And before I do, I need you to know there's no pressure. If you're not ready, we can wait. We can wait years if that's what you need." Naomi's heart started racing. Harrison reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "Naomi, you changed my life. Before I met you, I was just going through the motions. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. You reminded me what it feels like to be alive. To care about things that matter. You're the strongest person I know, and I want to spend my life supporting you the way you've supported me." He opened the box to reveal a simple diamond ring. Not huge or flashy, just elegant. "Will you marry me?" Naomi looked at the ring, then at Harrison's face. He looked nervous. This powerful man who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions looked nervous asking her to marry him. She thought about Brandon. About how he had made her feel like she was never enough. Then she thought about the past year. About how she had rebuilt herself. About how Harrison had been there, patient and kind, never trying to fix her or change her. Just loving her as she was. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you." Harrison's face broke into the biggest smile she had ever seen. He slipped the ring on her finger and pulled her into a kiss that made her dizzy. They decided to keep the engagement quiet for a while. Naomi wanted to tell her mother first, and Harrison wanted to make sure Naomi was comfortable before making any public announcements. He knew she valued her privacy. Naomi's mother cried when she heard the news. "I'm so happy for you, baby. You deserve this. You deserve to be loved like this." They planned a small wedding. Nothing fancy, just close friends and family. Naomi didn't want a big show. She had learned that the size of the wedding didn't matter. What mattered was the commitment. Patricia threw her a small engagement party at the bookstore. Harrison's friends came, along with Naomi's classmates from college and her co-workers. It was intimate and perfect. "I can't believe you're marrying Harrison Cole," one of her classmates said. "Do you know how lucky you are?" Naomi smiled. "I know how lucky we both are." The wedding was planned for 6 months out. Naomi wanted a spring wedding, and Harrison agreed to anything she wanted. They found a small venue, a garden with beautiful flowers and a gazebo. Nothing over the top. Just beautiful and simple. Naomi's writing professor helped her write her vows. She wanted to get them right, to express everything she felt. "I want to thank you," she wrote, "for seeing me when I couldn't see myself, for being patient when I needed time, for loving me not despite my past but including it because it made me who I am." The night before the wedding, Naomi couldn't sleep. She stood by the window of the hotel room and thought about how much her life had changed in less than 2 years. From that horrible night finding Brandon with Amber to this moment, about to marry a man who truly loved her. She didn't feel like she was getting revenge on Brandon. She felt like she was getting justice for herself. The justice of a good life. The justice of real love. Harrison texted her, "Can't sleep either. Too excited to marry you tomorrow. I love you. Naomi smiled and texted back, I love you too. See you at the altar. Tomorrow she would start her new life. Not as someone's wife who had lost herself, but as Naomi, fully herself, loved for exactly who she was. The wedding was everything Naomi had dreamed of. Small, intimate, perfect. She wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers. Harrison cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. They exchanged vows that made everyone cry. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Harrison cupped her face so gently and kissed her like she was precious. They had asked guests not to post photos on social media. They wanted a few days of privacy before the news got out. But on their second day of honeymoon in a beach house, Harrison's publicist called. "Someone leaked the news," she said. "It's everywhere. I'm sending you links now." Naomi watched as her phone blew up with notifications. News articles. Social media posts. Billionaire CEO Harrison Cole marries mystery woman. Harrison Cole's secret wedding. Who is Naomi Parker Cole? There were photos of them leaving the wedding venue. Photos of them on the beach. Someone had found her old social media accounts and were posting her pictures. "I'm sorry," Harrison said, holding her. "I wanted to give you more time before the world knew." "It's okay," Naomi said, though her hands were shaking. Because she knew what was coming. She knew Brandon would see this. Sure enough, her phone rang that evening. A known number. She didn't answer. Then came the texts from numbers she didn't recognize. Some were congratulations. Some were people from her past suddenly remembering she existed. And then a text from a number she recognized. "Tasha. I saw the news. Congratulations. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I should have listened to your side. Can we talk?" Naomi deleted it without responding. Too little too late. But she couldn't avoid seeing the messages about Brandon. Someone sent her a screenshot of a post from their old friend group. Brandon had apparently seen the news and left the gathering immediately. Amber had been furious. Naomi showed Harrison. "He knows." "Good," Harrison said. "Maybe now he'll leave you alone." But it wasn't that simple. The next morning, Naomi's phone rang from a number she knew too well. Brandon's number. She stared at it, frozen. "You don't have to answer," Harrison said. But some part of Naomi wanted to. Some part of her wanted to hear what Brandon had to say now. She answered and put it on speaker so Harrison could hear. "Naomi." Brandon's voice was shocked. "Is it true? Did you really marry Harrison Cole?" "Yes." Silence. Then, "How? How did you even meet him?" "That's none of your business, Brandon." "Harrison Cole." Brandon laughed, but it sounded forced. "You married Harrison Cole. I don't believe it. You must have tricked him somehow. What did you tell him about me? Did you play the victim? Make yourself seem pitiful so he'd feel sorry for you?" Naomi felt anger rise in her chest. "I didn't tell him anything about you because you're not important enough to discuss. Why are you calling?" "I just wanted to hear it from you. I wanted to know if it was real." Another pause. "You really landed on your feet, didn't you? Goodbye, Brandon." She hung up. Her hands were shaking. Harrison took the phone and blocked the number. "You okay?" "Yeah. Actually, I am." And she was. Brandon's voice didn't hurt her anymore. It just annoyed her like a mosquito buzzing around. But Brandon wasn't done. Over the next week, Naomi started hearing from Harrison's assistant that Brandon's company had reached out multiple times trying to set up a meeting with Harrison. They wanted to discuss a potential partnership. "They're persistent," the assistant said. "Should I keep declining?" "Yes," Harrison said firmly. "I don't do business with people who hurt the people I love." The media attention eventually calmed down. Naomi and Harrison returned from their honeymoon and settled into married life. They bought a beautiful house, nothing too flashy, just a place that felt like home. Naomi kept working at the bookstore because she loved it, though Patricia had officially made her the manager. She continued taking classes and had started writing her first novel. Harrison respected her independence. He never tried to make her quit her job or change her life. He just supported whatever she wanted to do. One evening they were cooking dinner together when Naomi said, "You know what's funny? Brandon thought no one would want me. He really believed I'd end up alone and miserable." "His loss," Harrison said, kissing her forehead. "His tremendous loss. I'm not going to lie and say I don't feel some satisfaction that he knows I'm happy. That I'm more than happy. That I have everything he said I'd never have. That's not revenge, that's justice." Harrison pulled her close. "You deserve every good thing, Naomi." That night, lying in bed, Naomi realized she had stopped thinking about Brandon altogether unless something reminded her of him. He was becoming a distant memory. A bad chapter in her life that was finally closed. She had no idea that the worst of Brandon's downfall was yet to come. 3 months into the marriage, Naomi had fully embraced her new life. She was thriving at the bookstore, her novel was taking shape, and she had started a blog about books that was gaining followers. Harrison supported every venture, offering advice when asked but never pushing. What Naomi didn't know was that Brandon's life had taken a very different turn. She heard about it through the grapevine. One of her old co-workers from her previous job before the bookstore reached out through email. "I thought you should know," the email said. "Brandon's company is in trouble. There are rumors of bankruptcy." Naomi showed Harrison the email. "Should I feel bad that I don't feel bad?" "You're allowed to feel however you feel," Harrison said. "What he did to you was cruel. You don't owe him sympathy." But Naomi was curious. She did some research online and found articles about Brandon's company. It turned out he had made several bad investments trying to expand too quickly. He had borrowed heavily, assuming success would come easily. It hadn't. There were other rumors too. About Amber. Apparently, she wasn't the sweet, ambitious assistant she had pretended to be. She was expensive. She wanted designer everything, luxury vacations, a huge house. Brandon had been trying to keep up with her demands, spending money he didn't have. Amber's father didn't give him the business connections he expected, Patricia told Naomi one day. She had heard the gossip through her own networks. Turns out Amber's father found out about the affair and was disgusted. He cut Amber off and refused to work with Brandon. All that betrayal for nothing. Naomi processed this information. Brandon had destroyed their marriage for business connections that never materialized. He had thought he was trading up. Instead, he had gotten exactly what he deserved. But she refused to gloat. She refused to become bitter. She had worked too hard on her own healing to let Brandon's downfall consume her thoughts. Harrison, however, had his own information. His business circles knew everything. "Brandon has been trying to get a meeting with me for months," he told Naomi one evening. "He's desperate. His company needs investment or they'll go under." "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. My assistant has been declining on my behalf. I don't need to explain myself." Harrison looked at her seriously. "Does it bother you? That I could help him but I won't?" Naomi thought about it. "No. You're not obligated to help every struggling business. And honestly, Brandon made his choices. He has to live with them." What they didn't know was that Brandon was becoming increasingly desperate. He had started showing up places where he thought he might run into Harrison. Business conferences, charity events, restaurants he knew Harrison frequented. Harrison's security team noticed and kept Brandon at a distance. Meanwhile, Amber was getting restless. She had thought marrying Brandon would give her the life she wanted. Instead, she was married to a man whose business was failing and who was obsessed with his ex-wife's success. She started fights about it. "Why do you keep talking about her?" she would scream. "She's married to someone else. Move on." But Brandon couldn't move on. He had been so sure Naomi would fail without him. So certain she would come crawling back, begging for another chance. Instead, she had married one of the most powerful men in the country and seemed happier than ever. His pride couldn't take it. His ego couldn't accept that he had been wrong about her. That he had thrown away something valuable for something worthless. One night, drunk and angry, Brandon posted on social media. It was a long, rambling post about how success wasn't real happiness. How some people only married for money. How gold diggers existed everywhere. He didn't name Naomi, but everyone knew who he was talking about. The post backfired spectacularly. People who knew the real story called him out. "Didn't you leave your wife for your assistant? And now you're calling other people gold diggers?" One comment read, "You're just mad your ex-wife upgraded." Brandon deleted the post within an hour, but screenshots lived forever. The story made gossip blogs. Bitter ex-husband attacks former wife's new marriage. Harrison's publicist called. "Should we respond?" "No," Harrison said. "We don't acknowledge jealous rants. It gives them power." Naomi agreed, though a part of her was shaken. Brandon was unraveling. And she worried about what he might do next. Her worry wasn't unfounded. Brandon's company filed for bankruptcy a month later. The news was everywhere. Brandon Parker's tech startup fails, files Chapter 11. Naomi saw photos of Brandon leaving his office building, looking defeated. She felt a pang of something. Not sympathy exactly. More like sadness that someone she once loved had fallen so far. But then she remembered his cruelty. His certainty that she was worthless. And the pang faded. He's losing everything, Patricia said, reading the news at the bookstore. His company, his reputation. I heard Amber is thinking about leaving him. That's not my problem, Naomi said firmly. I'm not going to waste energy on his mistakes. But Brandon was about to make his biggest mistake yet. 6 months into Naomi and Harrison's marriage, Naomi's business was officially launching. With Harrison's mentorship, but not his money, she had been clear about that. She had developed a business plan for her own bookstore. A specialty shop focusing on independent authors and writing workshops. She had secured a small business loan, found the perfect location, and was hosting a grand opening event. The event was packed. Local authors, readers, her classmates, Patricia, Harrison's friends. Even some reporters showed up because Harrison Cole's wife was launching a business. Naomi gave a speech about following dreams and starting over. She didn't mention her divorce, but people who knew her story understood the subtext. She was in the middle of talking to a journalist when she saw him. Brandon. Standing at the edge of the crowd, wearing a suit that looked too big for him. He had lost weight. His face looked older, harder. Her first instinct was to have security remove him. But something stopped her. Maybe she wanted to face him one last time. Maybe she needed to see him and feel nothing. She finished her conversation with the journalist and walked over to Brandon. Harrison noticed and moved to intercept, but she shook her head slightly. She could handle this. What are you doing here, Brandon? He looked nervous. I saw the announcement about your grand opening. I wanted to congratulate you. Congratulations delivered. You can leave now. Naomi, please. Can we talk? Just for a minute? We have nothing to talk about. I made a mistake. His voice cracked. The biggest mistake of my life. I was an idiot. I was cruel. I said terrible things to you because I was scared. Scared of what? Of how much I needed you. Of how you were better than me. You were always better than me and I couldn't stand it. He took a step closer. She took a step back. Everything is falling apart. My company is gone. Amber is leaving me. I have nothing. And I keep thinking about what I threw away. About you. Naomi felt something then. Not sympathy. Not anger. Just exhaustion. You think I'm supposed to feel sorry for you? You destroyed our marriage. You told me I was worthless. You spread lies about me. And now that your life isn't going well, you show up here expecting what? Forgiveness. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to give me another chance. We could work things out. We were good together once. Naomi actually laughed. Are you serious right now? Brandon, I'm married. Happily married. To a man who actually respects me. Who builds me up instead of tearing me down. Who never made me feel like I had to be small to make him feel big. I know about Harrison Cole. I know he's rich and powerful and everything I'm not. Brandon's voice turned bitter. Is that what you wanted all along? Money? You really don't get it, do you? Naomi felt a strange calmness. I didn't marry Harrison for his money. I fell in love with him because he's kind. Because he listens. Because he saw value in me when I couldn't see it in myself. Things you never did. I loved you, Brandon said desperately. No, you didn't. You loved having someone to control. Someone to feel superior to. That wasn't love. What I have now, that's love. Harrison appeared at her side then, his presence calm but protective. Is there a problem? Brandon looked at Harrison and for a moment, Naomi saw something break in his face. The full weight of what he had lost. No problem, Brandon said quietly. I was just leaving. Good, Harrison said. His voice was firm but not aggressive. And Brandon? Don't contact my wife again. Next time, I won't be polite about it. Brandon looked at Naomi one last time. I'm sorry. For everything. I accept your apology, Naomi said. But we're done. That chapter of my life is closed. I've moved on. You should too. She watched him walk away, shoulders slumped, and felt nothing. No victory. No anger. Just relief that it was finally over. Harrison put his arm around her. You okay? I'm perfect. And she was. She had faced Brandon and felt nothing but pity for him. He no longer had power over her. The rest of the evening was wonderful. Naomi sold books, talked to customers, and celebrated her success with people who actually cared about her. Brandon was forgotten the moment he left. But that night, lying in bed, she told Harrison something she had been thinking. I used to imagine this moment. Facing him after everything. I thought I'd feel triumphant. Like I'd won some competition. But I don't feel like that at all. What do you feel? Free. I feel free. He doesn't matter anymore. His opinion of me doesn't matter. I know who I am now. I know what I'm worth. And it has nothing to do with him. Harrison kissed her gently. That's the best revenge. Not caring anymore. Little did they know, Brandon was about to hit rock bottom in ways even Naomi couldn't have predicted. 2 months after the bookstore opening, Naomi found out she was pregnant. She and Harrison hadn't been trying, but they weren't preventing it either. When she saw the positive test, she cried happy tears. Harrison cried too when she told him. "We're having a baby," he kept saying like he couldn't believe it. They decided to wait to tell people until after the first trimester. It felt precious and private, something just for them. Naomi continued working at both bookstores, Patricia's original shop and her own. She continued writing. She was living the life she had always dreamed of, even better than she had imagined. Meanwhile, Brandon's life had completely collapsed. His house was foreclosed. His cars were repossessed. Amber had left him for another man, someone wealthier and more stable. Brandon moved into a small apartment and took a job as a sales representative at a tech company. The same kind of position he had once considered beneath him. Naomi heard all of this through the grapevine but didn't engage with it. It wasn't her business. She had her own life to focus on. Then came the charity gala. Harrison's company was hosting a fundraiser for children's literacy programs. It was a cause close to Naomi's heart, so she had been heavily involved in planning. The event was at a luxury hotel, black tie, very formal. Naomi wore a navy blue dress that was just starting to show her small baby bump. She was glowing. People kept telling her how beautiful she looked, how happy she seemed. Harrison stayed by her side most of the night, his hand often resting protectively on her lower back. She was talking to a group of teachers about the literacy program when she saw him. Brandon. Standing across the room in an ill-fitting rented tuxedo. He was there with his new company, she realized. They had bought a table. She stiffened. Harrison noticed immediately. "Want me to have security remove him?" "No. He paid to be here. The money goes to a good cause. I'm not going to let him ruin this night." But as the evening went on, Naomi kept feeling Brandon's eyes on her. It was unnerving. Finally, during a break between speeches, he approached. "Naomi." She turned, keeping her face neutral. "Brandon. You look beautiful. You're glowing." "Thank you." She started to walk away. "Wait, please. I just want to talk. We talked at my bookstore opening. We have nothing left to say. I heard you're pregnant. Congratulations." Naomi felt ice in her veins. "How did you know that?" "We haven't announced it publicly. Someone mentioned it. I don't know who." He looked sincere, but Naomi didn't trust him. "I just wanted to say that I hope you're happy. I really do. I am happy. I know I destroyed everything. I know you hate me. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Not because I want you back. I know that's impossible. I just need you to know that I recognize now what I had. What I threw away." Naomi looked at him, really looked at him. He looked broken, defeated, and she felt nothing but sadness for the person he had become. "Brandon, I don't hate you. I did for a while, but hating you was exhausting. It took energy I didn't want to give you. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same." "How? How do you move on from the biggest mistake of your life?" "You accept that you can't change the past. You take responsibility for your actions. You stop making excuses. And you focus on being a better person going forward." She paused. "But that's your journey. Not mine. I can't help you with that." "I still love you," he said desperately. "No, you don't. You love the idea of what you lost. You love your ego being hurt. That's not love." Harrison appeared then, his presence like a wall between her and Brandon. "Naomi, the program is about to start again." She nodded and started to walk away with Harrison. But Brandon grabbed her arm. "Wait, Naomi, please. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I'm begging you. Can you talk to Harrison? Can you convince him to meet with me about my company? If I can just get one meeting, maybe he'd see our potential." Naomi pulled her arm away. "Are you serious? You just said you wanted to apologize, but really you want me to use my influence to help your career." "I'm desperate, Naomi. I'm losing everything. I'm about to lose my apartment. I can't find good work. I need help. And you think I should help you? After everything?" Harrison's voice was cold. "Touch my wife again and we'll have a problem." Brandon's face flushed. Of course. The rich, powerful husband swoops in. "Naomi, do you even have your own voice anymore? Or does he speak for you now?" That did it. Naomi felt rage, real rage for the first time in months. "How dare you? You spent our entire marriage speaking for me, deciding for me, controlling me. Harrison has never done that. Not once. He respects me. He values my opinion. He treats me like an equal partner. You treated me like property. I made mistakes. You made choices. You chose to cheat. You chose to humiliate me. You chose to spread lies about me. Those weren't mistakes. Those were deliberate acts of cruelty. Naomi took a breath, calming herself. I'm not helping you with your business. I'm not asking Harrison to meet with you. You need to figure your life out on your own, the same way I had to after you destroyed mine. So you're going to let me fail? Let me lose everything? I'm not letting you do anything. I'm just not saving you. There's a difference. She turned to Harrison. I'm ready to go. As they walked away, Brandon called after them. You used to be kind, Naomi. You used to care about people. Naomi stopped and turned back one last time. I'm kind. I do care about people. Just not people who hurt me and then expect me to fix their problems. Goodbye, Brandon. I hope you find peace. But I'm done carrying your weight. In the car ride home, Naomi was quiet. Harrison held her hand. You handled that perfectly. I feel bad, she admitted. Not for him exactly. Just bad that someone's life fell apart so completely. His life fell apart because of his own choices. You're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to protect yourself. I know. I just never imagined I'd be the kind of person who could walk away from someone struggling. You're not walking away from someone struggling. You're protecting yourself from someone who hurt you and is now trying to use you. That's different. Naomi nodded. He was right. She had spent so long being the kind person, the understanding person, the person who always helped. But kindness didn't mean letting people hurt her repeatedly. That night, she wrote in her journal. I saw Brandon tonight. He's lost everything. And I feel sad about that, but not responsible. I'm learning that I can have compassion without taking on other people's consequences. I can wish someone well without being part of their life. I can be kind without being a doormat. This is growth. This is healing. 5 months later, Naomi sat in the nursery of their home, painting the walls a soft yellow. She was 7 months pregnant now, her belly round and full. She could feel the baby moving as she worked, little kicks and rolls that made her smile. Harrison came in with lunch. You're supposed to be resting. I am resting. I'm sitting down. She grinned. Besides, I want to finish this room before she comes. They were having a girl. Naomi had cried when they found out. A daughter. A little girl she could raise to be strong and confident and to never doubt her worth. Life had become more beautiful than she ever imagined. Her bookstore was successful. She had finished her novel and found a publisher. She had friends, real friends who loved her for herself. She had a husband who respected her. And soon she would have a daughter. The news about Brandon had stopped reaching her. She had blocked all mutual contacts on social media. She had made it clear to everyone that she didn't want updates. The last she heard, he had moved to another city to start over. She hoped he found peace. She genuinely did. But it was no longer her concern. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. Harrison went to answer it. Naomi heard voices. Then Harrison came back holding a manila envelope. This was delivered by a lawyer, he said, looking confused. Naomi's heart sank. What now? She opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were papers. Her old divorce papers. But there was something else. A letter from Brandon's divorce lawyer. Naomi began to read. Mrs. Parker Cole, I'm writing to inform you of information that recently came to my attention. During my representation of Mr. Brandon Parker in your divorce proceedings, I was unaware of certain facts that I believe you should know. Mr. Parker had been planning his affair with Miss Amber Hayes for approximately 6 months before you discovered them. He had specifically instructed me to prepare divorce papers in advance, to be served to you immediately upon discovery to prevent you from having time to make claims on his business or assets. He had also instructed me to provide him with a strategy to ensure you received minimal settlement. Furthermore, I recently learned that Miss Hayes' father had promised Mr. Parker certain business advantages if he married his daughter. This was the primary motivation for ending your marriage, not the reasons Mr. Parker stated to you. Miss Hayes' father later reneged on these promises when he learned of the affair's circumstances. I'm sharing this information because I believe you were wronged, and I've since left that firm due to ethical concerns. I hope this brings you closure. Naomi sat down slowly, the letter shaking in her hands. Harrison read over her shoulder. He planned it, she whispered. For 6 months he was planning to leave me. While I was making his dinners and supporting his career and being his wife, he was planning his exit strategy. She expected to feel rage. But something. Instead, she felt a strange sense of validation. It wasn't her fault. Nothing she could have done would have saved that marriage because Brandon had already decided it was over. "What do you want to do?" Harrison asked gently. Naomi stood up, walked to the fireplace and dropped the letter into the flames. Then the divorce papers. She watched them burn. "Nothing. I want to do nothing. Knowing the truth changes nothing about my life now. It's just confirmation that leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me." Harrison pulled her close. "I'm sorry he hurt you. I'm sorry he was so calculating." "I'm not. Not anymore." Naomi touched her belly, feeling her daughter kick. "If he hadn't done what he did, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have you. I wouldn't have her. I wouldn't have found myself." In a twisted way, his betrayal was the best thing that could have happened to me. That evening they went for a walk in their neighborhood. The spring air was fresh and the flowers were blooming. Naomi felt peaceful. Truly peaceful. "You know what I realized?" she said to Harrison. "Brandon thought no one would want me. He thought I was worthless without him. But the truth is I was always valuable. I just couldn't see it because he had convinced me otherwise. He didn't give me worth. He just blocked me from seeing the worth I always had." "Exactly," Harrison said. "You saved yourself, Naomi. I just got lucky enough to be there when you did." 3 weeks later, Naomi went into labor. It was long and hard, but when she finally held her daughter, she cried tears of pure joy. They named her Grace. Grace Parkercole. "She's perfect," Harrison whispered, holding his tiny daughter. "She's ours," Naomi said. "And I'm going to raise her to know her worth. To never let anyone make her feel small. To understand that being kind doesn't mean being weak." Over the next few months, Naomi settled into motherhood while balancing her businesses. It was hard but fulfilling. Patricia retired fully and Naomi took over the original bookstore completely. Her own specialty store was expanding. Her novel came out and got good reviews. She was living a life beyond her wildest dreams. 1 year after Grace was born, Naomi and Harrison renewed their vows in a small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Naomi wrote new vows, thanking Harrison for showing her what real love looked like. For being patient while she healed. For supporting her dreams without trying to control them. "You gave me the space to find myself again," she said through happy tears. "And then you loved the person I found. That's the greatest gift anyone has ever given me." They danced under the stars, their daughter asleep in her grandmother's arms, surrounded by people who truly loved them. Naomi looked around at this beautiful life she had built and felt overwhelming gratitude. Brandon had thought no one would want her. He had been so wrong. But more importantly, Naomi had learned that being wanted wasn't the point. Being herself, being whole, being happy, that was the point. She never heard from Brandon again. She heard through distant channels that he eventually got his life together, found a decent job and moved on. She was glad. Not because she cared about him, but because everyone deserved a chance to grow and change. But his story was separate from hers now. Completely separate. He was a character in the early chapters of her life, but he had no place in the chapters she was writing now. As Naomi danced with her husband under the stars, holding him close, she thought about that woman who had slept in her car a few years ago. That broken woman who didn't know how she'd survive. She wanted to tell her, "You're going to make it. You're going to more than make it. You're going to build a life so beautiful it'll take your breath away. You're going to find real love, real success, real happiness. You're going to find yourself. And that's going to be the best revenge of all, not revenge against him, but revenge against the lie that you weren't enough. Because you were always enough. You just couldn't see it yet." The night ended with Naomi holding Grace, standing with Harrison as they looked out at their property, their home, their life. "Happy?" Harrison asked. "Completely," Naomi said. And she meant it with every fiber of her being. She had thought her story ended the day she signed those divorce papers. But it turned out that was just the beginning. The beginning of the life she was always meant to live. The beginning of becoming the woman she was always meant to be. And as for the question of revenge, she got it. Not through destroying Brandon. Not through bitterness or anger. But through building a life so full of love and purpose and joy that the past became nothing more than a distant memory. A lesson learned. A chapter closed. That was the best revenge. Living well. Living fully. Living free.